autograph. And that time there was no phone.
There's a phone of this, yeah.
No phone to do autograph and all that. So I saw my signature on the plate. I said, do you remember this plate? I said, I think I think I remember that it must have been in London. He says, yes. He said, my daughter saw you in London at a party in London and came behind her party plate that she was supposed to use to eat. You signed it and she kept it.
Wow.
He said, today, my daughter is studying theater because of you. She's specializing on radio and everything. I just started crying.
Wow.
So, I mean, that for me, a few years later, the daughter will come back to Nigeria, and the woman calls me and says, your daughter is around, though. She wants to do radio internship. I said, leave it to me. Yeah. I got a repower. I called the remote. When things like this happen, you are thankful for the kind of life you've led. Yeah. That you can be. It's not easy to be a role model. It's very tasking, because then you can't have a break.
Yeah, that's the truth.
You cannot take a break and do rubbish.
No. You say like since 1985 or 84, you've been in Lagos, fully resident, a citizen of the city or state, right? And you have been playing
because
right?
For stage,
yeah.
I transited into television,
and the movies.
Yeah.
What have you brought to your craft that sustained you as the go-to lead man in your career?
It's dedication. Dedication, because when you are dedicated to your craft, we are all gifted in some way with something or the other. It is identifying that thing earlier on.
Yes.
So I have never, even though I've served in government for 8 years and I'm a lawyer, I always will start by saying my name is Richard Mofe-Damijo and I'm an actor.
Yes. That's it.
Full stop. You will discover in the course of our interaction that I'm a leader, I'm a life coach, I'm a speaker, I'm a Sunday school teacher, I can moonlight as a pastor sometimes, I'm a lawyer and I can be a politician, So it is that. So I imbue whatever it is that I'm doing with everything that is inside me. I pour into everything that is inside that I'm asked to do. There is something that I say, and I'll say this in closing. Maybe that will help somebody out there. When they say the eyes are the windows to the soul, it is very true of actors and the camera. It can see to the soul of the actor. And if the camera sees, that means the audience, is the audience POV, is seeing, taking it. If you truly love the job and respect the job and respect the people for whom you do it for, the people will find it.
Yeah.
That is the convergence of God blessing the work of your hand. So it is when that's dedication and respect for the audience converges with God's blessing that you blow. Because the people can see you.
Talking about Black Book.
Yes.
How well has it done? I've watched it twice.
Oh, Black Book is probably, people say, some of my colleagues say to me, Bros, you can now retire. It's being called the biggest African title ever to be streamed because we did incredible numbers. It's the first film that has hit the global number 3 in Africa. No other production. We were number 1 in South Korea, in Hong Kong, we were 3 in the US at some point, 3 in UK, 3 in Canada. We took the whole world, by storm.
The figure I heard the last time was like, so if they are returning, what's it called to you, per stream, per
Oh, you mean
for money.
Unfortunately, the negotiations are already done.
Yeah.
Before the.
Usually.
Yes, because you never know the one that will blow. But the beautiful thing is that you are up there. It means that you only need to cap this.
Yeah.
To stay there.
Yes.
And then every good thing will come. Yes.
Seek ye first the kingdom of
God. Yeah, every good thing
will be
every good thing will come, because we do everything to the excellency of His name.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I'm not afraid to say I'm a man of faith.
No, I know that.
Yes.
Because I recall that people thought, oh, you're studying theater, so he's just going to be dancing. He's going to be playing. Out of nowhere, he went to read law.
Yes.
Right. So out of nowhere, what are you reading next?
Well, I am going to do the Harvard course.
Okay.
Yes. It is something that never goes out of fashion.
Do you have a political ambition?
Absolutely no.
I'm not surprised.
But you know, like every one of us cannot make change from only the political side.
You're certainly not.
Yeah. I'm not averse to working, to contributing my quota. I've done so at the state level. If nature happens to conspire to put me at the national level to contribute my quota, of course, I will proudly. Yes, I lend my voice and my name and my image to different kinds of campaign. I'm a he for she. Again, I'm my mother's child, and so anything that has to do with women's rights, I'm a champion for that. I will stand up for women any day, anytime. I bring up my kids, my sons, to defend women, their sisters, every time.
Yes.
You know, there's no excuse, you know, for that. Not that they are weaker, but that's how we are wired.
Yes.
We are wired to protect and to serve. And so every time that I'm called upon or I see an opportunity, simple as the injunction of loving your neighbor as yourself. It is that simple.
Yeah.
You know, but then again, man loves to complicate things.
I'll find a solution to the complication.
To the complication
that he created.
Oh my goodness. Sad.
But on a regular day,
yes,
one would expect that you will be on set. So when you are not on set, what do you do? What are the other things you're involved in?
Oh, I teach a lot, and I speak a lot. Like I said, I'm a life coach, so I find myself in different. In fact, nowadays I find that when I travel, if I travel 10 times abroad every year, 8 times I'm on invitation to teach or to speak at different conferences. I speak at tech conferences. Yeah. People will be like, what is he coming to say? You know, I speak at leadership and entrepreneurial conferences. I've spoken it's a thing that I just do. GB has invited me twice to Flutterwave.
Okay.
I've spoken twice in Flutterwave. Okay. So the last time I spoke there, I have this pet theory that the liberation of Nigeria is going to be by a small tribe of these young people. And when I say that, I mean that because they are constantly providing solutions for economics, for social things, these same people, this same small tribe, are the ones that will perfect biometric system and all of that. And at some point in Nigeria, NIN, BVN, voters card, and all of that will be linked.
Yes.
If you are not in the database, you cannot vote. So every voter can be accounted for. The fraud or the discrepancies in our election in the next 2-3 election cycle will be reduced to less than 10%. And that is from where the liberation will come. And when people think that the progress right now is in fintech and in technology, it is just an adumbration of what is to come within the election, within our political life. Because when you fix that, everything else will be fixed. Look at what happens when you in a hospital in Lagos State, and you say that time when it started, it's like, oh, you know those small cubicles, you go out, they say go and pay there.
Yeah.
They say no, don't pay there anymore. Go to UBA or go to that bank and go and pay in that bank, and immediately everything begins to change.
Yes.
That is what the application of technology does. When you start to apply technology to every phase of governance and gather the data, that change that you thought was impossible will begin to change. We can begin to hold all our leaders responsible for whatever thing that they are not doing, because we can fall back and say, you are not going next year. All the voters, we have all of them, we reach them and say, this one, say non-entity is not going next year, and you will not go.
That's true.
And you cannot rig the process anymore. And so that's from where. So when I go to these places, I speak to them and I let them know that, look, you people are the change. You are the ones that will change this country. And it's not tomorrow. You are changing it now, but you think that you are doing it for money. But it is not for money. It's not the economics of it. It is going to affect, it is from the economics that it goes to the political. And then leadership will have no choice but all to bring everything under one, umbrella.
We're going to stop now. Let me thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I want you to make a public commitment that very soon you'll be back.
Oh, that's easy.
That's the camera.
I'll be back when Lekon says to come back.
No, when you come back from your migration. That's our little joke. Everyone, it's been nice having our brother, our friend, RMD with us on Timeless Conversations. We had timeless conversations, really. And I'm sure anytime we play this back, we'll say, okay, when are we doing it again? As soon as you're around again, we're going to do it. Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you for having me.
Till next time, Lekon Ogumba over here. Bye.
How are you?
I'm fine. Chief, fine.
Your office has taken a new look.
Well, we're trying to just grow up like you people, sir.
Welcome, sir.
Welcome to my office. And how are you?
And how are the women?
They are a national disaster. Please sit down, Chief. I don't believe you, Chief. Eh? You have quite a handful yourself,
and they are causing me nothing but civil war and disorder.
Come on, Chief. It can't be that bad. Eh?
It is. It is. When they are not fighting, they are asking for money or vice versa. What time do they have to do anything else?
They do, Chief. They find time to do. At least the women that I know do. You know what I mean?
I sold it.
Chief! What? It's okay, it's okay. Okay, so what is the name of the construction company?
I don't.
Now, what next? God's avenging angels.
My mother prefers to call me the god of Oloibiri.
Yes, God. Twisted all over.
Oh, it's still better than a wannabe activist who never made it. It's okay.
Now back it off. Back it off my house. You blood sucker. And take your dogs with you.
What's wrong? Did I hit a nerve?
Minding your mannerisms in public signals civility. Your behavior determines how others perceive you, and if you can leave a good impression, why not?
When it comes to that, it's about really making sure that you don't do something that will make people upset. So let me give you a typical example, public toilet, right? You want to walk into that washroom nice and clean. And at the same time, you want to leave it clean for someone else to use it like that. But what you find is that some people use it haphazardly. They don't care about who's coming in next. And of course, people are disgruntled by the way the place is dirty, not kept well. And of course, we have a problem there, health and hygiene, right? That's a public place. When you think about the airplane, for example, same thing as well. You are on the plane and you have children, and the children are making a whole lot of noise. You're disturbing the elderly people and other people who are sharing the same space with you. So when you're on the plane, you have to be mindful of other people that are going to be using it. So even when you're sitting down, it's a confined space, right? So you don't want to disturb other people. You want to make sure that you have a smooth ride without upsetting anyone while you're in that public space. What about when you're at the cinema as well? You know, a cinema is a place where, and a library, where you have to keep quiet. You don't want someone to keep telling you, shh, shh. What does that mean? You're not supposed to use your phone when you're in such places, like a library, for instance. Then you're in the supermarket as well. A whole lot of things. And many places where people are, I won't say maybe ignorant of other people, right? They think they're in their home. So you're in a reception in a restaurant, or you're in the reception of a hotel. You're not going to put your feet on the desk, on the table, and you're watching the TV as if you're in your sitting room, right? So people wouldn't like that. I've seen cases where some people are in they're in the not waiting room. There's a public place where you can sit down in a hotel, right? And some people have taken off their shoes, put their feet on the table, and their hand behind them, they're watching the news and like, hey, this is not your sitting room. You don't do things like that. Then when you talk about dining environments, you're in a restaurant. I have literally seen people, and I've done videos on it as well, where they've given you a napkin, it's for your hands. Wipe your hands down because you're about to eat. Then guess what happens? You see them using the same napkin to wipe their face, to wipe their hair. I've seen them do this. I'm like, oh, this is not the bathroom. So it's really about perception and how you want people to see you when you're in a public place.
When in the public, it is important to be courteous and respectful of others. You might not always know the rules, but if you make a genuine effort to be considerate of others with the intent not to disturb them, the conscious effort would show.
For me, I would love to see an environment where when we see something that is not right, we correct. I've done that severally, and I'm brave enough to do that. And most times when I finish speaking to the person says sorry, because maybe at the time they were doing it, they didn't realize how bad it was and the consequences to another person. But most times you find that they are truly sorry because it just didn't come down to that.
The rules of behavior when we're in public vary from culture to culture.
If you've ever been to Singapore and you're in a public train or any public environment, you're not allowed to chew chewing gum. And they made it a law. And so now people are very conscious. Don't chew chewing gum, you get fined, you can be imprisoned. So they've made it part and parcel of their life.
However, culture is an ever-evolving phenomenon that changes as the needs of the people changes. We all have rights, but it has limitations where the exercise of your rights begins to infringe on the rights of others. Behaviors such as playing music or videos loudly on your phone in public, receiving calls loudly in public places, or even blowing horns arbitrarily can be seen as offensive. Here are some common etiquette to take note of in public. Offer up your seat. If you're in perfectly good health, offer your seat to anyone who is either in poor health or pregnant. Make commuting easier for those who need it. Let the waiter come to you. Never yell or wave your hand at a waiter while dining. Make their job easier by being patient or politely get their attention when they pass by. Know your audience. Be aware of who's around before engaging in hot topics. Respecting people's sensibilities is the proper way to behave. Make sure to tip. Tipping is essential for certain employees to make a decent income. Make sure to leave a tip as a token of your gratitude whenever possible, even services you might not think of like a haircut or dog grooming. Say excuse me. It's the polite thing to do when you bump into someone. Even if you're not really the one to blame, why not just avoid conflict and brush off the situation? Use a coaster. Spitting isn't the only way to make a mess with your cold beverage. Say please and thank you, especially to those closest to you. Smile at the cashier, the bank teller, the security man, your co-worker, even if he or she doesn't smile back. Hold the door for the person behind you, and if someone holds the door for you, remember to say thank you. Step outside to answer your phone calls. Sometimes you have to take an important call. It is important to step outside to take your call because it's not fun to hear your conversation when we're trapped behind you in a line. Give people a pass. Cranky salesperson, nasty driver, you have no idea what's going on with that person right now. You don't have to reward ugly behavior with your own nastiness, which only perpetuates the cycle. Look at the person who's speaking to you. It is polite to listen to people who are talking to you and not just type away on your smartphone. Let someone go in front of you in line. Cough or sneeze into your elbow. Put your smartphone away during meals. Be on time. Ask before posting. Not everyone wants to be all over social media and you're not a reporter, so stop spreading the news. Keep the noise down at work. Silence the ringer on your phone. Speak quietly and turn the sound down on your dinging emails so it's not bugging everyone you work with. Wash your hands after using the bathroom. Park your shopping cart on the side of the aisle. Ask permission to use someone's first name. Clean up after yourself, at home, at work, at a friend's house. Ask before bringing a guest. Don't assume they're automatically invited no matter how well you know your host or hostess. Stay at home when you're sick. Reach out to people who are grieving. Don't pretend nothing happened. If you don't know what to do or say, you can simply say you're sorry. Let people get off the elevator first before you get on. The same rules apply to trains and buses. Silence your smartphone at the movies and stop crinkling that candy wrapper so loudly while you're at it. Help someone who's clearly struggling. The next time you see someone straining to reach something on the highest shelf at the grocery store, help him or her out. Skip controversial or nosy topics at parties. Politics, religion, or asking when they're getting pregnant or how much weight they lost. Those topics are sensitive and should be off the table. When you enter a room, greet everyone. Return calls. If someone takes the time to leave you a voicemail, take the time to call him or her back. Use an earphone or headphone in public while scrolling through social media.
Hi everybody, my name is Beverly Osu. Shout out to Plus TV. Don't touch that dial.
From a very young age, we're asked what we would like to become when we grow up. And you're expected to have just one answer. Children deciding to be more than one diverse thing evokes frown lines on the faces of adults because the path to being a doctor is at odds with the path to being a musician. However, there are many people who are genuinely curious about so many things around them, and to choose just one thing out of their many curiosities and interests is unsettling. They soon discover that they are bored and want to pursue more things. Some people may refer to these people as confused. However, the term used to refer to such people is multi-potentialites or polymaths or the Renaissance man.
A multi-potentialite is someone with many interests and creative pursuits.
The idea of the Renaissance man or polymath came about during the Renaissance period and is the idea that anyone who applies themselves can be exceptional at poetry, arts, science, mathematics, athletics, and any other field that catches their attention. Oyindamola studied human resources at the University of Lagos and graduated top 2 in her class. Since graduation, she has dabbled into music, acting, social media manager, digital marketing, content marketing, coding, freelance UX designer, and art. For me, when it comes to passions, things that don't have to do with money, I work maybe, I can say once a week or on weekends. I have my easel here, so I do my paintings. If it has to do with resume writing business, I set up a schedule that enables me to work on that. I have people that work with me. Once a client comes in, there's step-by-step process. It's been assigned. We have processes. So these things, this structure helps me keeps my life.
Good morning, you're welcome to the Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. My name is Rume Paulson. It's Monday, the 10th of February, 2025. And in fact, today is known as International Epilepsy Day. It's a day that is to create awareness, shine a light on people who are living with epilepsy and the challenges that they face, and is always celebrated the second Monday in February. On today's breakfast show, we'll be looking at several hot topics, one of which is Serap sustainable over 167 billion naira unexecuted projects. Much later in the show, we'll be discussing education, where we're analyzing the proposed 12-year educational model. We'll also be taking stories that made it to the front pages of our national dailies and top trending stories. But first, let's see our quote of the day. And our quote of the day says, if you don't like the road you're walking, start paving another one. And that's according to Dolly Parton. She's an American singer, songwriter, actress, and philanthropist, primarily known as a country musician. And she says this morning, if you don't like the road you're walking, start paving another one. So it's never too late. You cannot hop on a train that is going to a wrong destination and you're saying, oh, I'm already on this train, I might as well get to the end. No, you can always turn back. You can come off at the next stop. And that's just exactly what this quote is. If you don't like the road you're walking on, you can start paving another one. You can decide what you want for your life. If you want a better life, today is the day to make that decision. And that is the way you pave another road for yourself. There are people who make mistakes. There are people who, their past sometimes might not be the best. But then when you have that paradigm shift in your mind and you say, no, I can do better. I can be better. And then you start paving another one for yourself. You start to, do certain things that would help you to become that better person. And with this quote, we're in February. I know most times a lot of people, when you just get into the year, the whole New Year resolution, my vision board, we do that. And before you know it, a few weeks in, you fall off the bandwagon. Even if you're falling off, you can still go back to it. So bring out your New Year resolution that you wrote in December or early January and start paving that road for yourself. If you do not like what you're working on or the kind of life that you have right now, you can decide to have a better one. And today is that day. All right, moving over to our top trending stories. The first one says, ex-INEC rec seeks fair hearing after dismissal. The former resident electoral commissioner for Adamawa State, Hudu Ari, has called for a fair hearing after his dismissal over alleged electoral offenses. Ari claimed he was not given the opportunity to present his case and accused the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, of rejecting his letters explaining his side. He also stated that the tribunal overseeing the case between Aisha Binani and Amadou Finitri refused to accept his evidence, despite his assertion that he had substantial proof. Ari emphasized that he had submitted documents, including what he claimed to be authentic result sheets, to support his position. He expressed frustration over being denied the chance to be heard, referencing, in quotes, the golden rule of natural justice, which asserts that everyone should be given an opportunity to defend themselves. Ari, who maintains his innocence, pointed to the refusal of INEC to collect his letters at the tribunal's rejection of his evidence as evidence of unfair treatment. The dismissed REC also alleged that INEC staff were compromised, beaten, and threatened during the 2023 elections. Despite facing media trials, Ari stood by his actions, declaring that he had no regrets and would act the same way again. He is currently consulting with family and friends on his next steps, and he boldly claimed that Binani had won the election against Fintiri. In the court of justice, of course, everybody needs to have a fair hearing. And in this case, because there were about 3 resident electoral commissioners that were dismissed, I think one was for obviously corruption, getting money, and another, in this case, declaring a winner that wasn't what people expected, according to the result sheets. And 2023, a lot of states had their own fair share of it, but one thing that we loved was the fact that INEC was swinging into action with the tribunal courts, and offenders were being dismissed. But if a man is coming to say, you've not heard my side of the story, this is what happened and I deserve a fair hearing, I think it's just something that should be done because most times we're used to just cutting people off and cancel culture. That's the way we go. But in as much as when it's something that is as sensitive as election, we still need to give the man a fair hearing. So if he's saying that he has evidence, why not bring it? But I'm wondering, why did it come after he has been dismissed? I think you should have been able to approach the right people to say, okay, these are the evidences that I have, especially as at the time when the tribunal was sitting. These are things that happened. These are things I saw. That's the reason why I was able to declare this person a winner. If you put that in place, I'm not sure anybody would, dismiss you. But even because we know how Nigeria can be sometimes, if that was the case, then it's quite sad. It's unfortunate, and I think everybody just deserves a fair hearing if is a sensitive case as such as this. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully, maybe he tries to appeal, because I think that should be the next step to take. At this time, he's consulting with friends and family to see what to do. But I think the next step should, be an appeal. File an appeal and go back to court if you are sure. But if you're not, please, this is where you have to take a back seat. Moving over to another top trending story. This says NDLEA arrests drug kingpin, seizes 125 heroin wraps. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has arrested 2 drug kingpins who excreted a total of 125 wraps of heroin. Onyewonike Elochukwu Silvanus, 30, was apprehended at the Port Harcourt International Airport on February 2, 2025, using a fraudulent Sierra Leone passport. After ingesting illicit drugs, he excreted about 62 wraps of heroin weighing 1.348 kilograms. Silvanus admitted to fully engaging in drug trafficking after his business collapsed in 2017. The second suspect, 48-year-old James Chinonso, was arrested at Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos on February 1, 2025, upon his return from Madagascar. A body scan revealed he had ingested drugs and he excreted about 63 wraps of heroin weighing 909 grams. Chinonso also turned to drug trafficking after his phone accessories business in Liberia failed. In addition to the arrest, the NDLEA seized significant drug shipments across the country, including synthetic cannabis and tramadol, and arrested several other suspects in operations from this. Well, it's just sad that this is where we are, and Of course, the agency has vowed to continue the crackdown on drug syndicates nationwide, and I think that this is the perfect time, because drug is an issue in Nigeria. In fact, it just seemed like a handshake. And the sad part of it all is that it is trickling down into our secondary school. So you're seeing teenagers whose brains are not even well formed yet already going into drugs. And that's because there are people like this who are bringing it into the country. You know something is illegal, but yet you decide that you want to dip your hand into it. I understand that a lot of people are talking about unemployment, and if you look at the story, you know, one of them, his business has collapsed, the other one not doing so well, but still, it doesn't matter. You can still do other things. There are people who sell pure water on the streets. There are people who open kiosks. You can still start something else. That's not the end, you know, to life. But in this case now, you're giving up your rights, you're giving up your freedom for the next how many years that you're going to be in prison. All for what? We're living in a society whereby everybody just wants to get rich so quickly. Get rich quick scheme, you know, microwave. I want it right now. But that is not how life works. The truth is, there are always going to be ups and downs in life. And whatever you do determines your outcome. So if you're making a decision right now, is that decision that will determine what will happen in the next 10, 15 years? In this case, your decision obviously is to go into drugs. And of course, those next 10, 15 years will probably be in prison. But imagine if you started a business and you started nurturing it right now. That business has a chance to flourish over the next 10, 15 years. So which side do you want to be on? Unemployment cannot be the reason why people go into criminal activities. Most times we keep blaming the government, saying, I know it's okay to come here and berate the government sometimes and say, of course, you're not doing the best thing. You're not doing what is right for Nigerians. We understand that. But you as a person, you as a Nigerian, what kind of decision are you making for yourself? Are you going to go into terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, drugs, just because, drug trafficking in this case, just because you're trying to make ends meet and the government hasn't put, you know, the necessary things in place for you? There's still other things that you can do for yourself. And right now, we've invaded Nigeria so much with these drugs that everybody can get it at any time. And this is where the NDLEA really, really need to make their work seen, making sure that everybody is being intercepted. You're checking everywhere, the border controls, as you're coming into Nigeria from the airports, because these are even shipments. There are people who ship things in containers. And it's just not what we expect a country to be, because going to the social scene in Lagos, it's ridiculous. The amount, even the types of drugs that you see, you're spoiled for choice at this moment. But NDLEA, well done. We love the fact that you've been able to arrest these people. And I hope it's not a thing whereby, because a lot of times you hear of things like this, whereby you get sorted. Corruption. So yes, I was arrested. After a bit, I pay some certain money and then I'm freed again. And this person goes back into that same drug business. So it's a cycle, because they already love making such huge amounts of money. NDLEA, please continue doing your job and do it right. We don't want a situation whereby these people are freed after a while just because they've been able to grease some palms. All right, another top trending story says, policeman commits suicide in Niger. An assistant superintendent of police in Niger State, Shefiu Bawa, reportedly committed suicide on Sunday afternoon. The incident occurred in Kontagora local government area, where authorities revealed that his father, Usman Bawa, a resident of Rigasa area in Kontagora, reported the matter to the police command. Reports had it that Officer Bawa was found hanging from the ceiling when his father entered the room on Saturday afternoon and discovered his lifeless body. Police officers later arrived at the scene and transported his body to the General Hospital, where he was confirmed dead. His remains were subsequently released to his family for burial in accordance with the Islamic rites. His lifeless body was taken to the General Hospital Kontagora, where a medical doctor confirmed his death. The corpse was released to the family for burial. According to Islamic rites, there is yet to be any statement on the reasons for ending his life. Our condolences to the family, the Bawa family. It's it's sad. I know Nigeria, kind of takes a toll on people, and we don't know the reasons for this man's, for his death. But regardless of whatever it is, suicide is never an option. That is you giving up on life. And you know how they say when there's life, there's hope. So as long as you're still living, as long as you're still breathing, you can have a miracle. You can have a miracle today, you can have a miracle tomorrow, you can have a miracle whenever, but just keep going at it. Suicide, like I said, is never an option. And if you're someone out there who's even dealing with thoughts of this, please seek professional help. Speak to somebody. Even if you do not have money for therapy, speak to a family friend or loved one. No, it doesn't matter. Just unburden. It's okay to unburden. We are going through so much as a country. And imagine the family who has lost this person. Maybe that person was the breadwinner of the family. Maybe he was the person that made everyone laugh. It could have been anybody, because nobody would just want to lose a loved one. So it's quite sad that, this man, imagine someone even in the police force having to kill himself, having to commit suicide for reasons best known to him. It's quite sad. And I hope that the Nigerian government is doing something, because we don't want a situation whereby many people are just giving up. I hear stories, I hear people speak, and they're just saying, I'm giving up on Nigeria. I don't think Nigeria is going to get better. It will get better. It might take some time, but let us all put our hands on the plow and hope that it will get better. Suicide, like I said, is never an option. If you need to speak to someone, please speak to somebody. And once again, our condolences go to the family, the Bauer family, who have just lost their son, their brother, their friend, whoever it was to them. All right, our final top trending story says Ofodili Anulika, a woman who designed Nigeria's first military UAV. Lieutenant Nkedilem Anulika Ofodili, a trailblazing aerospace engineer, has made history by designing Nigeria's first indigenous military-grade unmanned aerial vehicle. That's the UAV. The Shagumi Tactical UAV, unveiled in 2018, the UAV was developed through collaboration between the Nigerian Air Force and the Portuguese firm UA Vision. It was designed for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance ISR missions, enhancing Nigeria's military capabilities. Ofodili's expertise in avionics systems and control engineering played a vital role in the project's success. With a PhD in control engineering from the University of Leicester, her technical background made her an invaluable contributor to Nigeria's growing aerospace sector. The Shagumi project is seen as a milestone in the country's quest for technological self-reliance in military aviation. As a woman in a traditionally male-dominated field, Lieutenant Ofodili is breaking barriers and inspiring other women to pursue careers in STEM, that is, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Her achievements not only highlight Nigeria's technological advancement, but also position the country as a rising force in global defense innovation. Kudos to her. That is amazing, and as a woman, I'm so proud of her. In fact, as a Nigerian, I'm proud of her. This is what we love to hear, and we want people to be celebrated for things like this, for innovation, for technological advancement. Most times you see it as a male-dominated field, but what a man can do, a woman can do. It doesn't matter about your gender, as long as you put your mind into it. And in this case, she has been able to create something. This project, of course, is something that would help Nigeria, which is her country. And the honest truth is, we have so many talented people in Nigeria. Sometimes it's just the situation at hand, the circumstances that they find themselves in, that they're not able to project all of the amazing ideas that they have inside them. And if we have a country that is, championing things like this, or fanning the flames of people who have these bright ideas, that would be amazing. Because if you look at America, if you look at China, if you look at the UK, the things that they have, or the kind of ideas that they have, we also have them. They just have an enabling environment. Well, at least we're starting from somewhere. That is the beauty of this. A woman is breaking barriers here, creating something, and that would definitely help, you know, the defense system in Nigeria, which is great, amazing, and we love to hear it. So kudos to her. We want more of this. Please, if you have an amazing idea out there, you can start developing it right now, especially if it's something that will benefit your society, your country, and your community. All right, that's it for our top trending stories. We'll go on a short break. We'll look at the weather, and when we return, we'll be reviewing the papers. So please stay with us.
An African girl somewhere is sitting at home, accompanied by dreams that seem so far away. Africa is one of the continents with the highest out-of-school percentage in education, and girls are at an early disadvantage. The sub-Saharan Africa records about 18 million out-of-school girls. This gender gap extends to the tech space with a projection of only a 33% global female workforce representation in tech firms for 2022. Let us help change the stories and numbers. Africa Agility's Project Train a Girl campaign is working to help train African girls in tech. You can donate as little as $2 or 2,000 naira to help a girl in tech get her heels in the door. Visit www.africaagility.rallyup.com/PTAG to donate.
This is it. I will take you through this amazing lesson today.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
You're watching Plus TV Africa. Nigeria is a beautiful country filled with cultural resources and a preserved tradition. It is famously known as the Giant of Africa, whose cultural heritage is woven from the natural beauty in her land, threads of history, and the hospitality of her people. From rainforests in the south to savanna woodlands in the center and a semi-desert region in the north, Nigeria is adorned with long stretches of exotic beaches, lush mountains, magnificent waterfalls, and a unique wildlife, boasting of enchanting tourist attractions ready to be enjoyed. Here are some tourist destinations you should add to your bucket list. Coconut Beach. Coconut Beach is located in the coastal town of Badagry, west of Lagos State, Nigeria. No place tells the story of tourism fused with history like Badagry, which is situated about 20 miles close to the border of the Benin Republic. Coconut Beach has breathtaking and beautiful ocean views, a perfect place for relaxation, with the beach being set away from the noise of suburbia. It is surrounded by thousands of coconut trees, where it got its name from, beautiful holiday resorts, vacation huts, fresh air, and an open sky, portraying an ideal rural destination for lovers of fun and holiday makers. The Obudu Mountain Resorts. Above the sea level on the Oshia ridge of the famous Sankwala Mountain sits majestically the Obudu Mountain Resort. It is located in the highlands and deep tropical forests of Cross River State, with a temperate climate and just 45 miles from the border of Cameroon. The ranch boasts of numerous pleasant mountain area and countryside views, with tourist attractions like the water park, cable car, ranch cattle and horses, waterfall, and the ancient Anapi village. The Obudu Mountain Resort is a mix of adventure, beautiful scenery, and idyllic tranquility. The
Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. It's time to look at the stories that have made it to the front pages of our national dailies this morning. And joining us to review the papers is Professor Kamilu Sani Fage. He's from the Department of Political Science, Bayero University, Kano. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. So this morning would begin with The Punch, and The Punch leads with 70,000 Naira minimum wage. State salaries rise by 90% to 3.8 trillion Naira. And the writer here says 27 states depend on federal allocation to pay salaries. Plan 6.259 trillion IGR. So 70,000 Naira minimum wage. Of course, it was increased, even though most people say it's still not enough, right? But look at states now, they are not able to pay salaries. I know that the minimum wage before used to be about 35,000, so 70,000 is almost like 100%. But right now, what they have is their salaries have risen by 90%. But the figure here is the 3.8 trillion Naira. How come in 2025, states are not being able to pay their own salaries and they are having to depend on the federal government?
Yeah, you see, the reason is, one, there is too much wastage in the state. And two, there is this increase in the salary itself from the minimum wage, the old minimum wage to the new minimum wage, which is about 100% increase. But I think the devil is in the detail. Now that, as the paper shows, the salary, the wage has increased over 90%. But if you break it down, you go down in the news, you'll find out that the cost of this is that, one, many states have over-bloated bureaucracy. There are too many ghost workers in the place, so that is why the money goes in that one. Secondly, there are so many political appointees. Some governors have them ranging in hundreds, some in thousands, and you know, they are doing nothing and they are being paid. So if you add all this one, you see the cost of, you know, the price, the cost of it will rise. You know, that is why we are having this problem. And the fact that we have this over-bloated bureaucracy and huge, you know, political appointees, that is why, you know, the number of states that will not be able to pay their salary rose from 24 states last year to 27 states this year. So as we continue with this, you know, trend, it is likely going to be that perhaps not more than 4 states could be able to pay. So unless we take stringent measures, you know, to block these wastages and corruption, and also to also check, you know, unnecessary, you know, increase in terms of appointments here and there, especially the political appointments. I think that is why we are having this kind of problems now.
Yeah, so it says planning 6.259 trillion internal generated revenue, but shouldn't states be able to, because every month they go to Abuja to get some allocation, but why are we not looking at ways that our states can be financially, you know, independent, or being able to generate their own revenue and sending it back to the center instead of the other way around where they have to go to Abuja to get monies from? Because if they need to pay this amount of salaries, and of course, if all of the appointments and things that you've said, then they should be able to generate money to be able to pay for it, don't you think?
Yeah, that is what should have been the ideal case. That, you know, every state has certain comparative advantage, which if it exploits, it will be able to generate, you know, sufficient IGR to finance itself and even remit something to the center. But the fact is that everybody is dependent on the center. That is one thing. Secondly, even the center depends on oil. So we don't diversify. Unless we diversify our economy, that is why we can, that is the only way by which we can get out of this problem. But the way states are, they just depend on the center. So they don't try to, you know, look and take advantage of what they have.
Well, we expect them to start taking advantage of what they have, because I'm sure each state, they definitely have something that they bring to the table. They have something that, be it agriculture, crude, whatever it is, but start to ensure that you're generating revenue for yourself. All right, let's look at another story here. So there's a headline here on the Punch that says, no leader can be effective without stepping on toes, and that is according to Obasanjo. So, of course, where we are at now, with all that is going on in Nigeria, and if we even look at our political scene, all the political parties are having one issue or another. But what do you think of this statement from Obasanjo that said, no leader can be effective without stepping on toes?
Yeah, you see, to some extent, there is some element of truth in that. The fact is that in Nigeria, we have some people who are above the law. There is, you know, they are so powerful that they dictate everything to the leaders. From the local government up to national level, there are people who are literally untouchable. And these are the people who happens to be, you know, a clog in the wheel. So unless you take certain measures, you know, and you impose the rule, that is the only way by which you can be an effective leader. But this does not mean that the leader has to be tyrannical. It has to be, you know, you step on things based on justice, based on law. So if you now establish rule of law, you'll be able to step on the leader will step on the toes of those who are challenging the whole process, and at the same time, you will be able to, you know, be an effective leader. The simple reason is that we don't allow rule of law to prevail. some people are above the law. So unless you bring them down and you make the law above everybody, and that is what it means by taking on the toes of others. Those who feel they are untouchable now make the law to be above them, and then you can be an effective leader.
Right. Thank you so much for that. I think everyone should be, or the law should be supreme. The law should be above everyone, and there shouldn't be anybody that is above the law. Who are you when you're not God? Anywho, so there's another story here that says Rivers community deserted as cultists kill 19 residents. What do you think of our security system in Nigeria? Because we keep hearing of cultist clashes, we keep hearing of kidnappings, banditry, terrorism as a whole. But look at this now, whereby cultists have killed 19 residents and people are having to leave their homes. What's your take, and how do you think we can combat this? Because it's becoming an issue. In fact, in Edo State, I think that was last week or the other week, they had to put a law against cultism in that state. How do you think the government can ensure that, you know, everyone feels safe in their homes and people are not having to flee just because some cultists come to kill the residents?
Yeah, you see, from cultism to banditry to Boko Haram to all others, these are indications of the level of insecurity in Nigeria. And, you know, the only way by which the government will take, will head up this is that, look, they have to seriously address the issue of, the insecurity, not just in terms of, equipping and, supporting the security agencies, but also in terms of heading the problem before it happens. And one of the ways by which you now ensure security is to have, reports so that before the event happens, you nip it in the bud. And how do you do it? The government has to have, the goodwill of the people. Part of the reasons why we have a problem is that people are not ready to come out to give intelligence reports to the security agencies because they will be victimized. And secondly, or thirdly, there has to be a synergy between all the security agencies so that where you have credible intelligence reports, it will be effectively and efficiently utilized beforehand. Otherwise, we sit on these things and we allow it until it happens. That is when we react to it. The surest way to ensure security is preventive measures, preemptive measures, not reactive measures. In Nigeria, we are more concerned with reactive measures than preventive measures.
Yeah, and that's where intelligence gathering comes in, because before something happens, you're being proactive. You already know how to stop it. Not that you're hearing, oh, they've gone into a community, they've killed about how many people. That's when you're racing there. The deed has already been done. Hopefully, we start to look for preemptive measures, like you've said, to ensure that people in Nigeria feel safe. All right, let's move over to the nation. The nation leads with federal government targets capital markets to fund infrastructure. The writer here says road, rail, education, health, IT sectors to benefit. IFC team, ICRC to work out modalities. So, in fact, one of the stories that we're going to be discussing much later in the show is the fact that SERAP is suing the government over some projects that have not been completed or have been abandoned in this case. But now we're seeing that the federal government obviously targets capital market to fund infrastructure. Most times we take loans for these things. We're thinking of capital market, we're thinking of how to fund the infrastructure. But then after a while, we always see most times, in most cases, whereby the projects are not being completed. They're being abandoned. They're awarded to another contractor. You're seeing those monies going again, but we're not seeing the benefit, or we're not seeing it get to full completion. What is your take on this? The fact that the federal government is looking to fund this capital projects, but we don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah, you see, on the paper, it sounds fantastic. It is excellent that we are going to get it through this thing. But the fact is that if you look at it deeply, you see that it is a World Bank idea and the project that this is what they were going. Okay. Secondly, the fact is that we even go to that place, we are now going to go deeper in terms of debt. Okay. And so the third element is that after getting all these huge amounts of money, borrowing and this thing, the project will be abandoned, okay, and it will not be completed. The reason is that we have over-politicized projects which end up to be white elephants, okay? They are beyond this. We are not realistic in terms of the projects that we need. Secondly, we go and borrow and finance projects that we know we cannot be able to finish it. And thirdly, there is high level of planning indiscipline. A plan, you know, the discipline in a plan is that when you plan you are going to do X within so years, you should have the stages, and so that by the so years you will be able to complete it. But this is why we are having all these problems. And above all, is because we don't, you know, penalize those who are found guilty. So this is why, even if you now have this PPP, private sector, public sector, private sector, cooperation to work, eventually the money will be spent and the work will not be completed at all. So these are some of the reasons why we are having where we are now. Even if the government says this is where they are going to get the finances, I think after a while it will be the same old story. Like you hinted, that is why NGOs like SERAP are now trying to go to court in order to sue the government that there are lots of abandoned projects. So I think it is unnecessary. You start incurring more projects. Wait and complete what you have started, and make it so realistic, you know, so that you can do this. But anytime we feel like every year we must have a project, every year we must have a new project, and we don't have the finances, we go and borrow. So you see, we end up having so many projects that are not completed and mounting debt on us. And this is how the country will never progress in this situation.
All right, so another story here talks about tax reform bills. So here it says, tax reform will spark economic rivalry among states, and that's according to Idris. What's your take on this? This has been in the news for a while. Some northern states are against it. Some southwest states are okay with it. But what is your own take? The fact that Idris right now is saying that it would spark economic rivalry among states.
No, I disagree with him, not just because I'm from the north, but the fact is, look at the implication. Tax over taxation does not, encourage, promote development. Yeah. On the contrary, the more you tax, we already have multiple taxation, this thing, and look at what even the private sector is crying. I think one of the newspapers today said something about it. They were crying that this will now lead to unemployment because it will raise the cost of production, and it will put so many business out of, so many businesses will collapse because they will be out of business because of taxation and others. So we have to be realistic. Taxation is not a way out of to promote development. Look at all the countries all over the world. They don't overemphasize taxation as a means of economic development. But here we are just propagating it. We are saying that it is going to promote rivalry. How can it promote rivalry when, it is bringing out so many or compounding our economic problems?
Yeah, shouldn't that even be good competition instead of the word rivalry? Shouldn't the word be good competition? Because if my state is doing really good, I expect your state to do good as well, and that would just help with the development of the nation as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know whether he used the exact word rivalry, or it is the reporter who said who used it, but whatever it is, rivalry is a negative thing. It should have been a competition, and this is what happens. Even in places, in climes like, for example, in US, you try to have a kind of competition between states. One example is that I remember there was a time when, you know, on issue of road construction, the federal government was not in US was not doesn't have hand in road construction. It is the state that have it. And what the federal government is doing is that they now allow states to compete, and now the federal agencies will come and assess the performance of states, and they will rank them in terms of performance, and then something will come as you know, a reward to the state. That encourage competition among states. So this is what should happen in Nigeria. You allow the state to now have a kind of conducive environment in the state, and now the federal government, you know, can now use that as incentive and say, okay, if you have these things, even on taxation, if you have these things and you create a conducive thing and it is workable, then there is something that will come in terms of ranking and in terms of incentive for the state to compete.
All right. Another story here says, while proposal for 31 new states is not likely to succeed. So last week we were hit with the news of the House of Reps members, you know, proposing 31 new states, which would now make the total states in Nigeria to be about 67. And one of the things I put side by side was the fact that in the US, they have, geographically, they're bigger than us. But how many states do they have? Just about 40-something. And yet, Nigeria, we're looking at 31 additional states. And those states, obviously, would have governors, they will have commissioners, they will have so many people. But for a country that isn't doing so well economically, do you think this should be our focus right now?
No, you see, the question of state creation is just about political consideration. If you see politicians, everybody wants to be a governor, wants to have this thing, so that is why they are pushing the thing. Just when we started this program, one of the things that we talk about is today, 27 states cannot be able to pay salary. Okay. Now, if you now break them, if at the present time you have 27 out of 36 will not pay the salary, what do you expect when you make it 76? Which means virtually no state will be able to pay even salary. So where do you have it? Economically, it's not realistic. Okay. And the other thing is, even if you talk about you know, 31 states. You know, in Nigeria, there is this issue of marginalization. Every state will be saying that they are being marginalized. So unless you have another 36 states, that is, each state you break it into two, that is when you now have you may head off the problem of marginalization. But even if you add that 36, the remaining five that are not broken into additional states, I think there will be that issue. So I think politically, administratively, economically, it is, you know, infeasible for us to talk about increasing the number of states, even if it is by one. In fact, to me, I think even 36 states now that we are having is unrealistic, because look at what is happening. 27 cannot be able to pay salary. They have to depend on the center. So why do you have to be doing what you know you cannot be able to, I mean, thinking about what you know you cannot be able to sustain.
I love how you've just broken it down, but like it's said on the paper, it's likely not to succeed. So let's see how that goes. On the Business NG, it leads with federal government cracks down ghost workers, set February 17th deadline for verification. The writer here says ICPC recovers 20 billion in pension fraud. Civil servants face salary freeze over verification. This is something that has, been as long as the age of time in Nigeria, whereby there are lots of ghost workers. And I think sometime last year or the year before, we saw that people who were even living abroad in the diaspora, they were getting money from here, still receiving salaries. And of course, we talked about it, no more salary intake for people who are abroad. But even as of right now, we're still seeing the case of ghost workers. February 17 is the deadline to ensure that you do all of the verification if you want to continue working and gaining salary. But what's your take on how do you think we need to go about this? Because it seems like we keep trying these measures, but they're still not working. And some Nigerians just know how to cut corners and beat the system, whereby they still get money and they're not working.
Yeah, it's because the laws are not backed up by punitive measures. Like you said, it's all over. Every time, every year, this has been in the news that there are staff verification, audit, and so on. But there is no time in record when those who perpetrated the thing were punished. So as long as you allow them to continue like that, they will find a way to cut corners. After all you do is to say, okay, you now fish out and get social numbers that are not there, and now you stop their salaries. But what are you doing with the people who put in the system? Okay, unless you take comprehensive measures to address this issue of ghost workers, it will be a recurrent thing because people are benefiting from it, and they know how to cut corners. So whenever you bring certain measures, they will come up with the new thing. This is one irony with us Nigerians. Whenever you are making a law, some people will sit down and try to see how to beat that law. So unless you take measures to punish those who are beating the law, you will not be able to succeed.
All right, finally, let's look at the Nature News. So the Nature News leads with federal government to transition 1 million households to clean cooking energy. What do you think of this new measures that they're putting in place to transition households to clean energy?
You see, this is also an unrealistic measure. The reason is simple, that if you want to transition it, you don't have to have programs, make it affordable. Okay? If it is affordable, you don't, you can encourage people to go and buy it. But now that it is beyond the reach of the people, the common man, all you expect is that they will go and cut down trees and burn it and get charcoal and firewood and other things, which will now generate other environmental hazards. Okay? So I think the thing is, instead of saying that you are going to have a plan on how to now make it decent with a certain household, all you need to do is to have policies that will make the energy affordable. What is the energy? Gas is there, electricity is there, and other sources of energy. They are all beyond the reach of an ordinary person. So no matter the measures that you take, it will not succeed if people cannot afford it. They will go for cheaper alternatives, which is other than the clean energy that you want to provide for.
I love the fact that you spoke about affordability, and that's definitely what would ensure that people make that choice to say, okay, I want clean cooking energy instead of, the firewoods and all of that. If it's affordable, they can get it, they will get it. Everybody wants a softer, better life, or it's something that works for them. Anyways, this is where we have to wrap it up on this segment right now. Professor, I want to say thank you for coming. It's always a pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me.
Have a wonderful day, sir. All right, so we're speaking with Professor Camillus Sani Fageye. He's from the Department of Political Science, Bayero University, Kano. And we've just been looking at the global stories that made it to the front pages of our national dailies this morning. We'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll be discussing SERAP and the federal government. Please stay with us.
Hi, my name is Omar Medada and keep watching Plus TV Africa.
Reading is an essential habit and a culture that must be developed. Nigerians are generally believed to have a poor reading culture. The role of government in promoting reading and equipping reading spaces and libraries in Nigeria cannot be underestimated. But first, we must look at the development of reading habits from the home and the role parents play in encouraging their children.
My parents, my mom used to be a teacher, so reading was obviously part of a curriculum. And then my father used to be a professor and is an author. So I started reading very, very early, and I started reading books that were higher than my age grade. I was reading African Writer series from age 7, age 8, and reading encyclopedias by that time. So obviously my parents had a huge part and encouraged that in me.
In the Nigerian book market, there's a high influx of foreign authors writing for children, but very few Nigerian authors telling relatable, homegrown Nigerian stories.
If you start out reading stories even to your baby, even before they're 1, and then as they get older, buy appropriate materials that are colorful, with easy to read words, and read with them. I think that helps.
Adedotun Enyade, a co-founder of Robin Heights, a leading bookstore in Nigeria, has tips for Nigerian authors and how they can improve on their work and get into the hearts of readers.
The story has to be good, right? If you're writing, whatever you're writing, if you're writing fiction, if you're writing non-fiction, it has to be really, really compelling, one. Next thing would be in terms of the packaging, right? People have gone past the era where you just take your books to just about any printer to print for you. I think, publishers, self-published authors as well, they need to invest in ensuring that the quality of the book, the final output is one that would stack up with any book published elsewhere in the world. So that's really important. Then I think what would be the most important tip for me to them would be just they need to invest in marketing.
The book business, like any other business, is challenging.
If you ask anyone who's running the business in Nigeria, they will tell you capital, of course, right? Book selling is also, as with any other business, is also quite capital intensive. Getting to pay your rent, getting to actually buy the books and stock up your shelves when you have them. Hiring good people requires decent amount of capital. So I would say it's getting the startup funds to set up something, and then if you're looking to do it at scale like we're hoping to do, then it also requires you raising funding, which isn't readily available in commercial banks, right? I don't think a bank would say they want to give you a loan to set up a bookstore. They probably will be skeptical about the number of people who read. So for us, I think it's just I would say capital is at the top of a totem pole.
It is commendable that certain individuals and organizations are making concerted efforts to revive the reading culture in the country. The government should also redesign the school curriculum to incorporate more reading activities in primary and secondary schools.
Lights, camera, fashion. As you can see, today I brought all the identity to the building. It's a Melbourne Head Conference, and of course, you are watching. In short, no, you're not even watching. You're tuned to. You can see the really on Plus TV Africa. Now, if you want to flip that channel because you've seen all my go, probably that's trying. See, my face will haunt you. Your TV will blow, your remote will explode. And because you're in Nigeria, your generator will Africa. We don't want that to happen. Plus TV Africa, the brand that puts a full stop at the top spot and the one that promise but over deliver. If you like, I put this their mic for my head.
The pandemic opened the world to a new dispensation regarding work. How people work and the career paths they take differ from generation to generation. There are 5 generations present in the modern workplace, each with unique expectations and perspectives. A person's career path is described as the work they do and the roles they hold as they climb up the ladder. Before the millennium, Career paths for many was simply linear, which could be a person working at the same organization and growing there till they retired, or a person working in the same role but changing jobs a couple of times. Security and staying power were the cornerstone of this career path. However, with modern technology, a person's career path can be as multifaceted and versatile as the individual wishes. Millennials now work multiple roles in their career trajectories, pursue numerous passions that are sometimes interwoven, and work at different roles in their journeys. Baby boomers and Generation X only considered a job good if it gave them the security to work there till they retire. But for millennials and Gen Z, the workplace has changed and so has the career structure. Millennials often change their career paths or juggle multiple interests simultaneously. Being able to move from one job to another might signal a person's employability and adaptability. Baby boomers tend to believe that working long hours is what defines success and value face-to-face interactions with co-workers. In contrast, millennials believe that innovation and flexibility are key ingredients for success at work. The shift in occupational structures, for example, the increasing gig economy, is leading to polarization in employment, wages, and inequalities. From remote work policies to virtual leadership, the pandemic changed how we work. The opportunity to telework increased for some, such as knowledge workers, but not for frontline workers. Among the benefits are an improved work-life balance for some, as well as changed attitudes to well-being. Teleworking can lead to a higher productivity and lower operating costs for companies. Work is increasingly flexible and decentralized. Working from home or out of a workspace is favored by many because of the flexibility that comes with it. Millennials and Gen Zs prefer flexible work schedules and part-time hours so that they can balance their work and life compared to older generations who prefer security.
Some people are social people. When they go to the office, they have friends everywhere. Good morning. How was the football match? You just with your colleagues and stuff like that. That social element at work, a lot of people need it. Me personally, I'm an extrovert, but I'm also high on the introverted side. I like going to parties, I like making friends, but I also like keeping to myself. So at work, I'm not the friendliest. I would smile, I would say hi, but I don't need to. So it depends on your personality and what you need. For me, work from home works a lot for me because I get to spend time with my family. I'm always in the house with my partner, and that really makes me happy.
When you want more, you add. When you add, it's Plus. There's nothing better than Plus TV Africa. My name is Jimmy Black, and I endorse this.
My name is Yemi Sholade. I am an actor, and proudly so. Here is my good old days story. I recall as a toddler growing up in Surulere in Lagos, ours was a life of communal living. Every family knew one another, and the children played together in the neighborhood. We played football, we rode bicycles, we flew the kite, we even climbed mango trees, guava trees, and went after the masquerades. Calabar masquerades, the one we called Ojuju Calabar in those days. Interestingly, in those days, electricity was 24 hours constant. Public water works was efficient. Free-flowing water drawn from these taps were filled in bottles in our refrigerators. No one talked about typhoid and other waterborne diseases. So good old days. Days when houses had no fences. We would sit across those low fences at sunset and gist all days till night. When everyone knew one another in the neighborhood, we wouldn't forget street football and would forget we would leave our homes, go to a neighbor's place, eat, and even pass the night. In those days of Levante's department stores, especially in Surulere, we had our own fair share of pranks and youthful exuberance. Was it the days I chased a lady thinking she was biracial, those you call half-caste, just for me to discover she was an albino? I retraced my steps and lady felt so bad. But now I know better. Or was it days when I was fascinated with the white naval uniform and I told my uncle I would like to join the Navy? On the day of the examination, I got there late and I saw how those who came late like me were being treated. They were flogged with koboko. You know koboko? Twist.
Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Serap sues Tinubu over 167 billion naira on executed projects. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has filed a lawsuit against President Bola Tinubu over the failure to prosecute contractors who received over 167 billion naira for projects that were never completed. In the suit filed at the Federal High Court in Lagos, also named the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, as a respondent. SERAP seeks to compel Tinubu to direct the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, to publicly name the contractors and ensure their prosecution. According to SERAP, a 2021 report by the Auditor General revealed that 31 ministries, departments and agencies, MDAs, paid out 167 billion naira for projects that were not executed with the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading PLC, alone disbursing 100 billion naira. Other implicated MDAs include the Nigerian Correctional Service, National Pension Commission, and the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, among others. The lawsuit argues that the unpunished diversion of public funds undermines Nigerians' access to essential services and violates anti-corruption laws. SERAP insists that transparency and accountability in public spending are fundamental to democracy, and holding contractors accountable will prevent fraud and waste of public resources. No date has been set for the case hearing yet, but joining me this morning is Kolawole Oluwadare, the Deputy Director, SERAP. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
All right, so this is something that has happened over time in Nigeria, whereby we see contracts being awarded and projects that we expect to get to completion that would obviously aid the development of Nigeria is never being completed. And before you know it, that same project would now be awarded to another contractor, and it's just a vicious cycle that keeps going on and on. So it's a good thing that SERAP is obviously putting this on their table and saying, no, it cannot just be, it cannot go on. But first, let's start with this lawsuit. What prompted it for SERAP to say this is what we want to sue the government about right now?
Thank you very much. I would say that the lawsuit was prompted by the lack of action of the government. When we identified these issues in the Auditor General's report, that is the 2021 Auditor General's report that was released in November, we had written to the President, also to the Ministry of Finance and the anti-corruption agencies, pointing out what has been highlighted by the Auditor General, calling a finding, because it is a finding of the Auditor General among the many issues. And what we've asked the President to do is what we've gone to court for, asking him, being the person who appointed the Auditor General, he appointed the Minister of Finance, and he more or less is the head of the executive, to instruct the Ministry of Finance, also instruct the Attorney General of the Federation to work with law enforcement agencies to make sure that these funds are recovered. This is without prejudice to the oversight functions of the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly, who also have the mandate to investigate and make resolutions in this regard. And that letter was written in December. It was in the absence of a response to that letter in form of action that we had come to court, basically to compel the President to do what constitutionally he is expected to do. And when you look at these and match it with the 2025 budget, for instance, the huge deficit gap, and the extra funds are nearly 50 million trillion that the President is asking to add to that budget, You understand that Nigeria claims that we need money because the deficit gap in our budget keeps growing. But this is a report that has been published by a public officer, the Auditor General of the Federation, showing clearly that a lot of our ministries, departments, and agencies that get environment and allocations every year cannot account for how these funds have been spent. Logically, one would expect that one of the things the president will do to fund that budget deficit, which is one of the things, the outcomes, is to ensure that these funds are recovered. And secondly, to plug the gaps that has allowed these funds to be mismanaged. And thirdly, to ensure that individuals who are found culpable face the law. The president has done none of that, but it is very convenient for the president to ask for a supplementary budget from the National Assembly. And that forms the contextual basis of this lawsuit. But ideally, this should not be a lawsuit. If the president has acted as he should in the best interest of Nigerians, this shouldn't be another public interest lawsuit. Unfortunately, it is now, and we have to see it to the end.
All right, so I love the fact that, you know, you're trying to press in to ensure that you get a response, because you've written to them, no response yet. So, of course, the next thing is to go to court. But let's just say, with it going into court, what are some challenges that you hope to see? Maybe because, of course, it might not just go in your favor. But if it goes in your favor, what are the next steps? What's going to happen? Or what do you hope to see with this?
So talking of challenges, it's more, the challenges are more procedural, and then we have the mindset of those in government. In this instance, starting from the president to all the public officers. The procedural challenges we probably encounter is to get this case assigned and act and determined on time. The average lifespan of the nature of our public interest cases is 2 years. Sometimes it drags to 3 to 4 years. If it's a political case, you would understand that probably be had and determined in 6 months or less. And that is one of the challenges we have. And then secondly, we expect the lawyers to come to court on behalf of the government for this. Lawyers from the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation, including sometimes private lawyers that have been paid taxpayers' funds to defend an action that is compelling the president to do the right thing. And then thirdly, if we do get judgment, and I see no reason why the court will not agree with Nigerians in this instance. Executing that judgment may also be a challenge, but we cannot focus on all these challenges and allow it to stop us from taking action. And one of the reasons why I believe that these will swing the way of Nigerians is very easy. The legal basis is clear. Let's start with the factual basis. The Auditor General has gone through a process of audit and has produced a report. The Auditor General of the Federation has an office. It's called the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation. He's a public officer. He's appointed by the president. So that audit report, until it is impugned by any other contrary evidence, stands as a fact. That is a fact. The law is also very clear that the Office of the Auditor General reports to the president and the National Assembly. And the anti-corruption laws are also clear. It does not allow Nigerians, whether public or private individuals, to just steal money. So there is no reason why the courts would not agree with Sarah about the Nigerian people in this regard. Perhaps the major challenge would be how to enforce this judgment. But again, that should not stop us from pressing towards getting people in public offices to be accountable. Ultimately, what this means for the average Nigerian is that looking at all these MDs, 31 of them, everything that should amount to public utilities is probably being affected, including electricity, water, roads, security, name it all, including health. And so every Nigerian must understand that this 167 billion is more or less robbing you of the essential services that you should enjoy as a citizen in Nigeria, including the judge who's going to preside over this case. These funds will also affect him or her ultimately. And that is how we need to look at these issues, to understand that these are critical matters of governance. This is not politically motivated. This has no tribal or religious inclination. It is simply to make sure that governance works for everyone, and more particularly, that public funds should be used for the public benefits.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and should be used judiciously. So on one of the papers this morning, it says federal government targets capital market to fund infrastructure. The writer says road, rail, education, health, IT sectors to benefit, and of course the IFC team, the ICRC to work on modalities. So it's just funny that we're talking about contractors who have been awarded projects and they did not complete it. But yet again, as of today, they're still looking for funds from the capital markets. So it might still happen again. And we'll get back into this same cycle of, projects not being executed. But with that being said, they're looking for funds right now. Why do you think the government is not trying their best to ensure that the people that they give money to, they're being prosecuted so that they can take that money and plug in the gap?
Perhaps government will be in a better position to supply that answer. But I can hazard a guess, given the experience we've had in issues of transparency and accountability over the years. I think, among other things, the principal reason will be political will. And it's very simple. Nigerians are very politically active, and that perhaps shows that where we're very active when it comes to politics. And affiliated things like tribalism and religion, it's something that we take very seriously. And that also means that public officers, whether they're elected or appointed, have a political will is very important, because our politics are not even ideologically driven. It means that whatever action the president, the governors, or even members of the National Assembly, or even the councillors in the local government would take, will have to have some element of politics in it. Politics is not bad in itself, but we need to understand that politics is a means of governance. Governance ultimately is much more important than politics. So what is absent in this regard for the president to take action to recover these funds will be the absence of that political will. It is not politically expedient for that to be done now, and I do not know why. But I can tell you, if there is any political motivation on the part of the president to do this, it will be done now. And we have a lot of antecedents where, when it is politically expedient for government to take action, it doesn't take long. But when it borders on issues of governance, government is very slow. So raising more funds from the capital market, including the various loans, foreign and domestic, that we're ultimately going to fund the 2025 budget, simply shows that we do not have our priority in order. And it means that, and really, if we have anyone that looks at these issues carefully, including some of those international partners that would loan us funds, the important question to ask is the amount that we borrowed over the years, whether sourced locally from loans or from IGR, or from crude oil sales or from the loans we've gotten outside Nigeria, how have they been spent? And there is no guarantee that these funds that we are going to borrow will not go the way of previous funds. And by the way, just for context, the 167 billion naira is just one of the 4 issues identified by the Auditor General of the Federation in the 2021 report. That is not the total sum of money that the Auditor General has found to be missing. The Auditor General raised 4 issues. This is just issue 3 of 4 in the report of 2021. And don't forget, this is the 2021 report. The Auditor General is yet to release the one for 2022, 2023, up to 2024. So we do not know what it will find. But we know what the Auditor General has reported from at least 2014 till date. It amounts to trillions of naira that could simply not be accounted for by various ministries, departments, and agencies. And that is why conversations like this, they are very important, to get the people to understand the nature of the issues, that they are governance related, they are public services related. And then people can bring to bear that political will. I've mentioned that Nigerians are very, very politically aware and very politically active. And that is why we need to keep having conversations like this to educate perhaps those who don't understand, or those who understand are perhaps seeing it through a political prism so that they understand better, to bring that much political will to bear on the president until he does what is right in the interest of the Nigerian people.
You talk about trillions, of course. This is 167 billion is just for 2022. So if we're talking about 2014 till now, trillions, and I'm like, how much is Nigeria's budget again as of today? If all of the monies that have, gone by are amounting to even what we can use to run a country right now. So why are we not doing so much to ensure that corruption is at, bare minimum? And can you explain to Nigerians, maybe they don't understand, what is, how does corruption affect, our economic growth in Nigeria? Because clearly this is a case of contract fraud, whereby people are being awarded projects, they do not complete it, they take the money and they run away. And what institutional or legal reforms do you think needs to be put in place to ensure that it doesn't happen again? Because we're always at this junction every single time.
I think it's very, thank you very much for that, that we try to explain the audit process. And in this instance, one need not be an accountant to understand what basic audit is. The Auditor General of the Federation, as part of its statutory functions, every year at the close of every financial year, audits the books of the required federal ministries, departments, and agencies. And in simple terms, what audit simply means is to match what was allocated in terms of budget or environment to each ministry, department, and agency, how much came in by way of actual allocation, how those funds had been spent as against what it was budgeted for, and documentary evidence that showed how those funds were spent. Don't forget, spending, allocation of resources is guided by many laws, including the Public Procurement Act and the Civil Service Rules and all other things that clearly states how contracts are going to be awarded, the bidding process, payment process, and all that. The Auditor General takes it into consideration during the audit process. So when the Auditor General finds out that 31 MDAs in this instance have paid out a total sum of 167 billion naira for contracts not executed, what it simply means is that the Auditor General can see proof that the monies came into the MDAs as part of the allocation. He could see proof that the monies were paid out, but he could not see proof that the jobs were completed anywhere. That is what it means in simple terms. And so for the average Nigerian, what it means is that that contract, that allocation that could have done something for you has not been done. For example, one of the agencies concerned, according to the Auditor General, is the Federal Medical Center, BIDA. The Auditor General did not state the specific contract, but perhaps it could have been it could be for bed spaces, it could be for drugs, it could be for anything. But since that contract was awarded and not executed, it simply means is that for those who would go to that hospital for medical services, they will not be able to get the best or get none at all. That is what it would be. And that is cross-cutting among all the various MDAs that the Auditor General has highlighted. And that's why it's very important that we understand. This is not about Sarah. This is not about politics. It's about governance and how these public institutions that should use these funds to serve the public have paid out these funds, but there is no proof that those contracts have been awarded. And as to what you alluded to about what needs to be done, I do not think it's a matter of legal reform. Law in Nigeria, like every other place in the world, is not perfect. And that's why laws are repealed and reformed from time to time. Problem is not the laws. In this instance, the law is clear what the Auditor General should do. He has done it. The law is clear as to what he should publish. He has done it. The law is clear as to who he should forward it to. He has evidence that he has forwarded it to the National Assembly and the President. The law is clear as to the role of the anti-corruption agencies, the ICPC, FCC, the Nigerian police, and the likes. Their laws are clear as to what they should do. So it is not a matter of legal reform. It is simply a matter of that political. You will recall that recently, the Senate, the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly made a statement about a lot of these MDAs that have been called to defend the allegations against them by the Auditor General, and they complained that none of them do not show up. The law is clear, and the same National Assembly has the power under the Constitution to order the Inspector General of Police to arrest the heads of those organizations and to make them appear before it. It is not a matter of legal reform.
I think we just do not respect. I think we just do not respect the law.
And we can't look at it today. We have to look at it with the mindset of what has happened. Almost like the doctor examines a patient, asking about your medical history. The doctor looks at your medical history, which is the past. He or she orders a test, which is the present, and then he uses both to do a diagnosis as to what is wrong. We need to understand that the impunity did not start today. It started a while back. And it has culminated into what is happening now. So we should not be surprised. And so this will only continue to get worse if people can steal money, be appointed and rewarded with political offices without being punished. If people can steal money and nothing gets done about it. If the Auditor General can say that people have stolen money and the president is doing nothing about it. If the National Assembly is complaining that the Auditor General has submitted a report to us telling us that XYZ institution cannot account for this. And there's nothing, the National Assembly is claiming there's nothing it can do. Don't forget, it is the same National Assembly that will approve, or that has approved, depending on how you look at it, a budget for that same ministry, department, and agency for the 2025 budget. So it simply means it is not a matter of legal reform. And perhaps there are laws that needs to be tweaked. But it is a matter of the political will to enforce and implement those laws. That is the only way we can defeat impunity.
All right, thank you so much for that. Making sure that we have the political will, implement the laws, improving the transparency. I think that's the word I'll put it there. Improving the transparency, especially when it comes to things like this, public processes, procurement, and all of that. If you're taking XYZ amount of money, we need to see what it's being used for, and we cannot be looking for loans or capital markets to ensure that we're funding things that never come to light, never comes to bear. So we have a whole lot of work to do, and kudos to you guys at SERAP who are always championing such causes. Thank you so much for all that you do. Anyways, want to say thank you as well for coming on the program today and just speaking up about this. Thank you for your time, Kolawole.
Thank you very much.
Have a wonderful day. All right, so we're speaking with Kolawole Oluwadare, he's the Deputy Director of SERAP, and we've just been looking at the fact that SERAP obviously has filed a lawsuit against Tinubu and everyone for the amount of 160 billion naira that was accounted for projects that were not executed. We'll go on a short break now. We'll look at some commercial breaks, and when we return, we'll be looking at our second hot topic that talks about analyzing the proposed 12-year educational model in Nigeria. Please stay with us.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 and they pay.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
My name is Mona Lisa Chinda. You're watching Plus TV Africa.
Hi everybody, my name is Beverly Osu. Shout out to Plus TV. Don't touch that dial.
Part of the financial commitment of Governor Dauda Lawal's administration towards transforming the health sector in Zamfara State shows the following statistics. Zamfara Contributory Pension Scheme, 1.1 billion naira. Yariman Bakura Specialist Hospital, 1.3 billion naira. Repairs and construction of new structures at Government Hospital Shikafi, 2 billion naira. Construction of a brand new hospital in Talata Mufra, 2.4 billion naira. Repairs and construction of new structures in Government Hospital, Anka, Kauran Namoda and Safi, 4 billion naira. Hospital Services Management Board, 4.5 billion naira. Establishment of zonal modern diagnostic centers, 5 billion naira. Primary Healthcare Development Agency, 7.3 billion naira. MFAD. It is a case of value for money in Zamfara's health sector transformation by government of Dr. Dauda Lawal.
Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Now it's time to analyze the proposed 12-year educational model. The federal government of Nigeria has proposed a 12-year basic education model, clarifying that it does not intend to abolish the junior secondary school JSS or senior secondary school SSS. The Ministry of Education issued a statement refuting misleading reports, emphasizing that the current 633 structure would be retained. The proposal presented by the Education Minister Tunji Alausa at the National Council on Education NCE meeting aims to provide a smoother transition between JSS and SSS by eliminating external assessment at that stage. The ministry clarified that this proposal is still under discussion and consultation, with further deliberations scheduled before a final decision is made. Stakeholders will be involved in the process, with the final decision on the proposal expected at the National Council Education meeting in October 2025. The ministry urged the public to disregard rumors about the scrapping of JSS and SSS. The federal government's goal is to enhance access to quality education and align with global best practices. This proposal represents an effort to improve the education system, while ministry remains committed to ensuring that students have a seamless transition through the various stages of basic education. Joining us this morning to discuss this is Dr. Peter Ogudoro. He's an educational researcher. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to come on the show.
Yeah. So how would you assess the impact of this proposed, 12-year basic education? Let's start with that.
Well, I think what the minister is trying to say is that they are moving to a model that will get the government to insist that every Nigerian child stays in the education system for a minimum of 12 years, rather than the current system where after the first 9 years, the child is at liberty to exit the education system, probably move on to other things. They want compulsory education, for a period of 12 years. That fundamentally is not a bad idea. As a researcher internationally, I know, for example, in Finland, every child is compelled to stay in the education system for a minimum of for the first 18 years of the child's life, because they believe that education is a critical tool for effective governance, and they want every member of society to be well informed so that you can make useful contribution to the advancement of society. The challenge we have in our case here in Nigeria is the fact that even the 9 years of basic education we are running, we know that it is not being adequately funded. Teachers are not well paid. Our laboratories are not adequately equipped. The funding is generally very low. And so if you are not coping with 9 years of compulsory education, as a matter of fact, when you say 9 years of compulsory education, How many Nigerian children are actually in the public school system? You know, a lot of Nigeria is about 50-50. About 50% of Nigerian children are studying in the private sector, meaning that the government is not even able to pick up the bill to take care of the first 9 years of a child's education in Nigeria. Now you want to take on additional burden of keeping them there for a minimum of 12 years. Who picks up the bill? You can't compel parents to keep their children in the school system if you are not going to pick up the bill, because Nigerians are poor. As we speak now, as of last week, I think it was World Bank that, or the IMF that was confirming that our GDP per capita has declined to $835, whereas countries like United Arab Emirates and Norway have gone beyond $100,000, and you are struggling to get to $1,000 per capita, and you want to take on additional responsibility. Where do you want the parents to get the money to pay school fees? If they live in rural communities where they are not even able to feed. So it's a brilliant idea. Keep the child in the education system for a minimum of 12 years, but government must pick up the bill, because the idea here that education is a cost is anachronistic. The world has gone beyond, beyond that level. Education is an investment, it's not a cost, really. If you know what I mean, if you do my kind of job. We know it costs money, but that cost is not treated as cost, it's treated as an investment. But Nigerian policymakers keep looking at the money you spend on education as a cost and not as an investment. And that's why, even when they have decided to encourage more people to go to university by way of giving them loans, it's still money they have to pay back. If you see education truly as an instrument for national development, you give every Nigerian child access to good quality education at government expense, because education is a public good. It's not something that brings you the kind of gain Dangote will make from selling petroleum overnight, really. So these are basic issues we have to understand. All right, so by way of summary, I think that the minister has been misinformed, and the whole idea of public servants, especially at the ministerial level, wanting to do something new, and they don't consult. They just make the announcement, and then people raise an uproar, and they start talking about going to consult. That's not how public policies are formulated. You formulate policy even when citizens don't know what's going on. You consult critical stakeholders, the teachers who run the classrooms. We don't talk to them. He just gathered commissioners of education from across the country. Go and do your research and look at the profile of the commissioners of education. I would be surprised if up to 10% of them studied education. They may be university graduates, but what makes you an educationist is not just the fact that you have a university degree. There is a discipline called education. Nigerians don't seem to understand this. If you go and take a PhD in geography, it doesn't make you an educationist, even if you're a professor of geography. There are people who have gone to school to study education. I studied education from first degree up to PhD, and there are several Nigerians who have taught similar paths, and many of us have been privileged to go to school in the best of schools around the world. I was at School of Education at University of Cambridge. Why don't they talk to us, even when we are willing to help with ideas for free? Why will a kidney care expert who is now Minister of Education come out and be making pronouncements on education when he has not spoken to the people who run the system? You just gather your commissioners and you talk to them. Your commissioners are people who study geography, political science, mechanical engineering, and who couldn't find job because Nigeria is not an industrialized place. Everybody jumps into politics. And you gather them in Abuja and you bring the press and you make an announcement and say you want to jump to F4. We don't understand where that is coming from.
Okay, so talking about the 12-year, of course, it used to be, in fact, in total it's 6-3-3-4, but you can exit, wherever in the threes that you decide to. But if they're saying that you have to be there for, the mandated 12 years, that's like the entire basic education. So what happens if a parent cannot pay the fees? Because a lot of times, even with the public schools, you still have to pay fees, you still have to buy books, you still have to buy uniforms. You're still going to part away with some money, to be honest. So if a parent do not have that money, especially when we're still talking about 70,000 naira minimum wage at the moment, what happens then?
Well, you are talking about 70,000 naira minimum wage. The truth we know is that even after it has become law, the average Nigerian worker does not earn 70,000 in a month. Let's start from education, my industry. The average Nigerian teacher does not earn up to 50,000 in this country. He earns about 35,000. 70,000 is just on paper. It's in theory for people who work for federal government and state governments. It's not a private sector matter. Most private sector people who run, different shops and, supermarkets and even schools are paying 35 in some. You'll be shocked to hear that many Nigerian teachers are earning as low as 15,000 naira in a whole month of laboring to train our children and prepare them for the work they have to do in the future. So we are making a gross mistake. If you want compulsory education, government must pick up the bill and you must de-emphasize private education. Let government rise up and build more schools, hire more teachers, equip the laboratories, and pay teachers well so that teaching becomes an attractive profession. Currently, most teachers are people who have no skills that enable them to effectively run their classrooms. You can't blame them. You haven't trained them. Even the professors training them, they themselves are half-baked. It's not the fault of the professor. We are not exposing him to international conferences where he can go and meet his colleagues and exchange ideas and learn and come back here and do better things in his faculty of education. So we are expecting too much from people we haven't given a lot, and that's very unfortunate for us.
To be honest, I think something like this should be proposed to a country who offers free education. And there are so many countries that, or maybe some level of subsidy, whereby you're saying, oh, we want you to stay in school because we know education is important for you, especially with the fact that a lot of people are living in poverty. So you have a chance to fight poverty if you're educated. So you cannot impose something when we do not have, or when you're not making the means and the measures to ensure that these people can afford it. But with that being said, I'm sure there's so many things that are that needs some level of reforms when it comes to the educational system. What do you think our focus should be on right now? Because we're still talking about curriculums, there's still so many things. What do you think our focus should be right now in the educational system?
First, we have to get into the ministries of education and sanitize the place. Those people who are directors of education, assistant directors, inspectors of education, who are they? Do they have the skills? Do they have the awareness? Do they know what they're doing? Minister of Education, Commissioner of Education in the various states. Let us find the humility to put only educationists in charge of education ministries across the country. And you will see Nigeria get off the ground overnight. Politicians are running the system. This won't work. When you put the right people at the helm of affairs and they come together, they will be able to brainstorm and understand truly what Nigeria's challenges with respect to education are. And those challenges include the fact that, very critically, the average teacher in any classroom in Nigeria cannot define learning appropriately. They have no skills to run classrooms. The average Nigerian teacher still believes that students should be flogged, students should be slapped, students should be bullied into learning, rather than getting a system in place that makes classroom attractive enough to want the child to come and stay in it. What we think is that we can force children to come and learn. No, we should make education so attractive that children on their own, on a typical day when they wake up and mommy is not preparing them for school, they say, mommy, why am I not being prepared for school? Children should look forward to going to school. In Nigeria today, children do not look forward to going to school. When you declare holidays, everybody rejoices. Both the teacher and the student rejoices. They don't want to be in the schools because they are not seeing education as a scam, because they can't see what is translated into. You finish a master's degree in any field in Nigeria, it's difficult for you to get a job that will pay you 70,000. So children can't understand. Go and check science departments in various universities. It's difficult to find students who continue after first degree to do masters and do PhD in chemistry, in physics, in mathematics, because they see their professors suffer and complain, denigrated and disrespected. And so they don't want to go through that process. So many people are disengaging from the education system, even right after primary school, for those who even manage to finish. And they all go on the internet and they just go to the street, record things and put it on the internet, and they have become social influencers. And they start making money in dollars. That's where Nigeria is now. Why is that so? Because we have not run a system that is manned by teachers who are competent and working with the right tools that will make children find the classroom an interesting place to be in. And then at the time they finish, they are able to transit into industry and become useful to employers who pay them well for the effort they have spent staying in the school system. We haven't fixed that. We are not funding the system well. Governance is poor. It's close to zero. There's so much corruption in the system. The laboratories, there are not, you have no equipment in them, okay? The professors and teachers are not attending conferences, no workshops, nobody is upgrading their skills. And you just wake up and you think by renaming the education system, you will automatically solve the problem. No, that's not even the whole idea of, we don't want them to be writing what people call junior WAEC, the basic education certificate exam. That's not your problem because it has never really been.
Okay, so what are some key challenges?
Even before the result of that exam is released, children are already in senior secondary school, so it's not Nigeria's problem for now.
Yeah. So what are some key challenges with this proposed structure, and how do you think it can be addressed? Because this is where we are now. They're saying they want to consult with stakeholders, of course, education, researchers like yourself. So how do you think this needs to be addressed right now?
Now, let me discourage you from believing that that consultation will amount to anything. Who are the people they're going to consult? They will consult fellow politicians. Because when they gather people in Abuja, there will be allowances. They will give you money for your transportation, flight ticket, give you money for hotel. And so what do politicians do? Politicians go and make a list of their brothers and sisters and girlfriends and put them and send them to the Ministry of Education to invite them because there's money to be shared. They are not going to talk to people like us. So don't be optimistic that I will be there. I won't. Nobody is going to invite me. Nobody is going to invite the average classroom teacher in a primary school. You need to talk to teachers in primary schools so that they will tell you what problems they are going through. Talk to teachers in secondary school. Talk to professors in university who are teaching these things. Stop talking to politicians. Politicians don't know anything about education.
All right, sir. So what are the key challenges to this proposed structure, this proposed model that they're trying to put in place now, and how can it be addressed? That's if we're asking you, not you going to Abuja.
Yes. So I don't have a problem with our going for 12 years of compulsory education. In fact, I advocate it strongly. If you give me the resources, I will go to the street and make sure it happens. Really. But the truth of the matter is that if you go for 12 years of compulsory education, you won't be able to implement it. It will be unimplementable. The reason is simple. We haven't got the funds to make it happen. If you make something compulsory as a government, you must pick up the bills. If you are not able to pick up the bills for 9 years of basic education, why are you thinking that you are going to handle 12 years of compulsory basic education? They are just trying to build their house from the roof and thinking upside down. This is not realistic thinking. And I'm very surprised that people who have lived abroad in places like US, Britain, and some other senior clients are the ones who are listening to these sycophants in government who are encouraging them to waste everybody's time talking about 12-4, 6-3-3-4, and all of that. So it's okay if that's what they want to do, but government must pick up the bill if it's going to work. But unfortunately, I don't see this government being able to pick up the bill to give children in the school system for 12 years compulsorily, because we have not been able to handle 9 years. Why do we think we are going to be able to handle 12 years?
So from what you're saying, of course, it's about funding. And I know that education just takes about 6-point-something% of our budget. So if we are saying that we want to be able to do this, then we need to at least put more money in that. And I think in other countries, even the WHO, World Bank or whatever, I have always said that education should be about 20% of your budget. But in Nigeria, it is less than 10%. So if we want this to fly, if we want it to take flight, we definitely need to look at funding and ensure that we can pick up the bill, especially for people who are maybe low-income earners, people who just do not have enough money. And we want to make sure that these kids are in school because, of course, the Almajiri system is something from this. It stems from things like this, whereby they do not have the funds to be able to send their kids to school. But if the government was being able to pick up the bill, then why not? Everybody should be able to be educated in Nigeria.
But let's put a caveat. It's not just about funding too, because sometimes what happens is when we discuss funding like this in the public space, government can provide more money. But we must also talk about accountability and transparency in the system.
Yeah.
If you provide more money and the politicians are the ones in charge, you will still, the more money will not translate to better quality education. So it's more critical that you start with putting round pegs in round holes and square pegs in square holes.
Right.
First and foremost, that you must do that before you start even talking about funding. Because if politicians are in charge and more money comes, they will use it to take their girlfriends to Dubai.
All right. Thank you so much for that. So we're talking funding, we're talking accountability and transparency. Hopefully, we'll see how this pans out, and we just hope that nobody would be at the lower end of it all just because they do not have as much money to send their kids to school. Every Nigerian child should be educated. Dr. Peter, I want to say thank you for coming. It's always a pleasure having you on our program. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Do have a great day.
You too, sir. All right, so I'm speaking with Dr. Peter Ogudoro. He's an education researcher. We've just been looking at the proposed 12-year education model. This is where we have to wrap it up on the show today. Thank you so much for having the breakfast with me. My name is Rome Paulson. I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Good morning.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Who has the right of way? Nigerian roads come with a lot of chaos. The chaos is caused by a combination of drivers, motorcycle and tricycle riders, pedestrians, and sellers who all claim the right of way. The chain of right of way holders in Nigeria is hierarchical, and car and motor drivers are at the top of the chain, with pedestrians at the bottom. Car or motor drivers believe that they always have the right of way regardless, and motorcycle and tricycle riders don't even have any regard for who has the right of way. For fear of accidents and their lives, pedestrians have learned to cower. When a collision occurs, the question of who has the right of way is on the lip of all concerned as they try to figure out who is guilty. The law doesn't grant anyone the right of way, but you yield it to other road users under these circumstances. At a yield sign, to pedestrians in a crosswalk, to persons using a seeing eye guide dog, to persons using a white cane with or without a red tape, at T intersections where you must yield to vehicles on the through road, at uncontrolled intersections where vehicles are already in the intersection, when driving on an unpaved road that intersects with a paved road, when returning to the roadway after a car is parked. Pedestrians must always be yielded the right of way at intersections and crosswalks. Treat bicycles as motor vehicles. Yield to bicyclists in all situations where you would yield to a car. For example, wait for an oncoming bicycle to pass before turning left. Turn right at a red light if it's permitted and no vehicles are approaching. If you see a sign that says "No right turn on red," then you must wait for the light to turn green again. Otherwise, you must turn right at a red light after yielding to oncoming traffic. Stop for pedestrians who've begun crossing the road. Once a pedestrian has begun crossing the road, they have the right of way. You should also stop for pedestrians waiting to cross at crosswalks that aren't controlled by a traffic light. Yield to oncoming traffic if you're entering a main road.
Hello, this is Mr. Steve Shodia. I want to do a shout out to Plus TV Africa. Keep watching.
Comic Republic is a Nigerian startup where we tell African stories. We push the African narrative forward through a traditional art form that is popular all around the world, which is comic books.
We kind of write stories that everybody can find a bit of themselves somewhere in there. You know, when you read our books, you will always be able to find one book that you are able to connect with, even if you are not an African. It's not just for Africans alone, but it's the African narrative. That's really what we do.
We take the process of telling our stories, you know, making our comic books engaging. We do it professionally and we take it as a business. We're growing bigger every day.
You know, we try to make sure that all of our comics, all of our content has a positive message underlying them, even apart from all the action, all the punching and all the superheroics.
Right now we have close to 48,000 downloads per comic book. We get between 5,000 to 7,000 unique visitors every week. Nigerians have been really excited to see people in Nigeria creating heroes from Nigerians, telling Nigerians that we can be everything we need to be if we only try. The comic business actually has a wide range.
One of the major things that actually helps us to move forward here is the fact that we are more than just a team, we are a family. And family is everything. We understand ourselves, we know what we're meant to do when we're meant to do, and we get them done.
The first and foremost vision for Comic Republic is to take on
Hello and welcome. I am Justin Akadonia, and this is the News Brief on Plus TV Africa. The Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has paid glowing tributes to the late business tycoon Herbert Wigwe, describing him as a man whose presence was larger than life. Sanwo-Olu was among the litany of distinguished guests who gathered at the Eko Hotel in Lagos for the one-year remembrance of the late banking sage. Wigwe, his wife Chizoba, and son Chizi died in an air crash exactly 1 year ago in the United States. Recalling Wigwe's contribution to the development of the country and Lagos State, the governor said he still struggles to speak of Herbert in the past. The governor Sanwo-Olu recounted Wigwe's contributions to Lagos State, ranging from his support during the COVID-19 pandemic, banking sector, arts and culture, and a host of other efforts.
The sun set when the rain set in.
footsteps will always echo in our deepest memories. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will.
Meanwhile, Access Bank has paid tributes to the late Herbert Wigwe, former CEO of Access Holdings, his wife Chizaba, and their son Chizi, who tragically perished in a helicopter crash in California exactly 1 year ago. In a statement shared on X, formerly Twitter, the bank honored their memory, reflecting on the profound impact they had on the institution and wider community. The Wigwes were among 6 victims killed when their helicopter crashed near the Mojave Desert. This tragic accident sent shockwaves across Nigeria's business and financial sectors, as Herbert Wigwe was widely regarded as one of the country's most influential banking leaders. In other news now, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Maitama Tuga, and his Bahrain counterpart, Dr. Abdulatif bin Rashid Al Zayeni, have promised to strengthen diplomatic relations and facilitate foreign direct investment between Nigeria and Bahrain. Now, this understanding was reached during the Nigerian Foreign Affairs Minister's visit to Manama, the Kingdom of Bahrain. The discussions also covered enhancing trade and investment opportunities, fostering cooperation in the oil and gas sectors with a focus on onshore projects and the development of the 8-train LNG, as well as the training of Nigerian diplomats and collaboration within multilateral fora. The ministers signed a joint communique officially establishing diplomatic relations between Nigeria and Bahrain, marking a significant milestone in fostering closer ties and mutual cooperation between the two nations. According to the Special Advisor to the Minister on Media and Communication Strategy, Al-Qasim Abdul Qadir, this development aligned with Bahrain's ongoing efforts to strengthen international partnerships. Now, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency has arrested 2 suspected drug kingpins at the Port Harcourt International Airport and Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos. The suspect, Onye Kwanike Elochukwu Sylvanus and James Chinonso, excreted a total of 125 wraps of heroin. Now, the NDLEA spokesperson Femi Babafemi confirmed the arrest in a statement issued on Sunday. Now, Sylvanus was caught at Port Harcourt Airport on February the 2nd using a Sierra Leonean passport under the name Kagbo Mohammed Fode. Now, investigations revealed that Sylvanus alternated between his Nigerian and Sierra Leonean passport to traffic drugs across Thailand, Pakistan, Iran, and West Africa. He admitted to entering the drug trade full-time in 2017 after his clothing and shoe business collapsed. The second suspect, James Chinonso, 48, was arrested on February 1 at the Lagos airport after arriving from Madagascar via Ethiopia on an Ethiopian Airlines flight. Now, ahead of the 2027 general elections, former Kano State Governor Rabiu Kwankwaso has met with ex-Interior Minister Rauf Aregbesola at the latter's Lagos residence. Now, the two leaders, who are part of the opposition, discussed national issues amid calls for a credible challenge to the ruling All Progressives Congress APC and President Bola Tinubu. Kwankwaso, the 2023 presidential candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party (NNPP), disclosed the meeting on X. Aregbesola, a 2-term Osun State governor, had a falling out with President Bola Tinubu over the second-term ambition of his successor, Boyega Oyetola, who lost his re-election bid to the People's Democratic Party's Ademola Adeleke in 2022. Aregbesola was subsequently appointed as Minister of Marine and Blue Economy under Tinubu's administration. While still talking politics, former Lagos State governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2023 elections, Abdulaziz Adediran, popularly known as Jendo, has affirmed his unwavering commitment to serving humanity. Adediran made this pledge during a Thanksgiving service at the Trinity House Zion Center in Victoria Island area of Lagos. Details in this report. The atmosphere at the Trinity House Church is characterized by fervent praises and worship every Sunday. The 2023 election in Lagos has concluded, leaving a trail of reverberating effects. Nonetheless, the team of the governorship candidate of the PDP, Abdulaziz Adediran, has ample cause to express gratitude to God for the outcomes. The team solemnly marches out, offering thanksgiving to God. The lead pastor, Itwa Igodalo, then delivers a prophetic declaration to the assembled congregation, including the former Lagos governorship candidate.
You are blessed. Your family is blessed. Your children are blessed. Your grandchildren yet unborn are blessed.
In an interview, the former contestant emphasizes the vital need for perpetual gratitude.
The team decided to say, you know what, we can't just behave as if God has not done anything for us. We had many wins during that electioneering process, and we must acknowledge this. The first of it is win of life. Of course, we are alive today. We went through that process. We're not hurt. Nobody died, and we have cause to thank God for keeping us alive. And the team deemed it necessary to say, why not? Let's go give thanks to God. I have to concur with the team, and we're here today.
Jandor expresses a shared commitment of steadfastness and plans for the political future.
Who says we can't even be president of Nigeria tomorrow or what have you. So I just need to let you know that this is the path that we have chosen. The difference is we're not professional politicians, we're just professionals who found themselves in politics. Okay, that is why we're playing it a bit different. Okay, so 2027 belongs to God, but all I can say is that we have chosen this path and we are not deviating from this path.
He also encourages qualified candidates to get into politics, as the affairs of the country should not be left for just anyone. And straight now to Ogun State, where the Deputy Governor Noimod Salako Oyedele has challenged the nation's engineers to lead the fourth industrial revolution by leveraging smart technologies, automation, and artificial intelligence to transform the manufacturing sector. The Deputy Governor made this call in her keynote address during the inauguration of Olumayowa Idowu as the 17th chairman of the Nigerian Society of Engineers Abeokuta branch. Speaking on fostering industrial growth and national development, the role of engineering and innovation in driving Nigeria's economic transformation, she stressed that the solid infrastructure is the foundation of industrial growth. On her part, the NSE National President, Margaret Oguntala, highlighted the impact of engineers on society and urged the new NSE Abeokuta leadership to embark on projects that improve the lives of Ogun State residents.
We had what we call a Black Friday, when all of us wore black just to express our sorrow to God. And we called upon God in prayer. And now, today,
for Nigeria to become an industrial powerhouse, we must bridge the gap between academic research and industrial application. Universities, research institutes, and engineering bodies must work closely with industry to develop solutions that are relevant, cost-effective, and scalable. We must ensure that the next generation of Nigerian engineers is equipped with the skills needed to drive industrial transformation. This requires a strong focus on STEM education, vocational training, and upskilling programs to keep pace with global engineering advancements. The government plays a crucial role in creating an enabling environment for engineering-driven industrial growth, and key policy action areas should include investment in infrastructure and technology, where we prioritize funding for roads, power, and digital infrastructure. Providing incentives for innovation, such as tax breaks, grants, and support for research and development in engineering and manufacturing.
I charge the new administration to ensure that community engineering remains at the top of your agenda. Engineering is about impact, and our relevance as a professional body is measured by the difference which we make in society. Let me assure you that the national headquarters of the NSC is working tirelessly to tackle all the perennial issues confronting our profession. We remain steadfast in our ongoing discussions with the federal government to ensure that the entry point of engineers into the civil service is maintained at level 10.
Limited Engineer Didiolo Fanobi FNS.
In his account with integrity, innovation, and inclusiveness, he stated that his leadership would focus on digital transformation, fostering inclusivity, and strengthening the NSC branch to empower engineers and advance the profession nationwide.
So I pledge to lead with integrity, I pledge to lead with innovation, I pledge to lead with inclusiveness. Together we'll build on the achievement of our predecessors, foster professional growth, and drive impactful engineering solutions that will elevate our profession and society at large. As we embrace this new era, our focus will be on leveraging digital transformation, fostering inclusivity, and strengthening the NSC brand to empower engineers and advance the profession. As we gather here today to embark on this transformative journey, we cannot move forward without recognizing the past that has brought us to this moment. In the past few months, our journey has been one of transformation, and our mission is clear: to engineer the future, elevate engineering in our dear state. So I pledge to lead with integrity, I pledge to lead with innovation.
Now, the Oyo State House of Assembly is proposing a policy to grant paternity leave to male civil servants and private sector employees. This move aims to strengthen family bonds and support newborns during their critical early development. According to Honorable Oloroboto Rahman, a lawmaker, newborns rely heavily on a strong bond with their caregivers who play a significant role in shaping their emotional, social, and cognitive growth. The proposed policy includes a minimum leave duration of 10 working days, with the leave to be taken within the first month of childbirth or adoption to ensure quality time with the newborn and provide support for families.
1. Through the Ministry of Establishment and Training, to introduce the paternity leave in the state civil service and public service to support family bonding and to provide additional care for the newborn. 2. Recommend that the paternity leave duration should be a minimum of 10 working days to be taken within the first month of childbirth or adoption, ensuring fathers have adequate time to bond with their newborns and support their families.
Perhaps with that there should be a need for acceptability, that is to be sure that the man in question truly take the leave to be and to take care of the wife after the resumption. The men should not see it as an opportunity to flange around.
That 10 working days to be enjoyed for paternity leave between the public and the private sector in Oyo State, and most importantly, 3 times in the working career of a public servant in the state.
And now to Ekiti State, where the chairman of the State Internal Revenue Service, Olatono, has refuted allegations circulating that the agency is imposing arbitrary taxes on traders in Ado-Ekiti. Mr. Olatono addressed these concerns during a meeting with aggrieved traders at the Ojido market in Ado-Ekiti. He emphasized that the government, through the EKIRS, has no intention of causing undue hardship to the residents. He clarified that the best of judgment BOJ method of tax assessment, which has been a major point of contention, is a lawful and standard practice in revenue administration. Now, the chairman explained that the BOJ approach is applied in situations where taxpayers fail to provide accurate and complete financial records as required by law. He further stressed that this method aligns with globally accepted tax practices aimed at ensuring fairness and compliance. Now, during the visit, some traders expressed their grievances, prompting the chairman to engage directly with them to address their concern and provide clarity on the tax assessment process.
Operating outside official hours. Why will internal revenue go and lock up people's shop by 6 o'clock?
When there is increase in inflation, I think the government should be at least a little bit considerable to do a downward review of tax so that it can relieve people of the burden.
That they have the right under the law to object within 30 days of receiving assessment. But from what we saw there, it was more or less like they wanted their issues to be collectively addressed. And since we will deal with personal income tax, we will still want anybody that has a grievance to come to us. And of course, when we ask them to show evidences that somebody who that paid 10,000 last year was charged 140,000 naira, nobody could produce any tangible evidence. And like I told them there, that if we charge them too high taxes such that their businesses crumble this year, who are we going to tax next year? So it's in our own interest, and even with the ease of doing business that we are promoting in Ekiti State, it's in our interest that their businesses keep on growing.
As the saying goes, when elephants fight, the grass gets trampled. The students of the Bayelsa State-owned Niger Delta University will remain at home following the refusal of the state government to implement an agreement reached between it and the Academic Staff Union of University's Niger Delta University branch, Bayelsa State. Addressing our correspondent at the Faculty of Law Campus Auditorium in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa State capital, the chairperson of ASU, Comrade Onyikweye Bebetedo Lucky, reaffirmed the union's commitment of continuing with the ongoing strike if their MOU that was signed on the 29th of October last year is not adhered to.
Items 1 to 4 are implementation of the 35% salary increment for our members with immediate effect and the payment of arrears from January 2023 to date. Consequential adjustment and immediate implementation of the 80,000 naira minimum wage to our members. Implementation of annual step increment with immediate effect and the payment of the arrears from 2018 to date. And payment of promotion arrears from 2018 to date.
Just embarrassing. Other schools are ahead of us. Yesterday we were supposed to be having our GSC exams, but because of the strike, we are still at home. And I'm considering the students that are coming in, the freshers, because how are they going to cope? And they are going to hurry us if we resume. So I'm pleading, let the government and the ASU members come together and work out something so that we can go back to school. Because staying at home is just doesn't.
And now to other parts of the continent, Libyan authorities have uncovered nearly 50 bodies from 2 mass graves in southeastern desert, according to officials. Now, this marks the latest tragedy involving migrants attempting to reach Europe through the North African nation. On Friday last week, 19 bodies were discovered on a farm in the city of Kufra. Authorities shared images on Facebook showing police and medics recovering bodies wrapped in blankets from the sand. Now, mass graves of migrants are not uncommon in Libya. Last year, at least 65 migrants' bodies were found in the Sharif region, 350 kilometers south of Tripoli. Now, Libya remains a key transit point for migrants from Africa and the Middle East seeking to reach Europe. Now, human traffickers have exploited over a decade of instability, smuggling migrants across Libya's borders with 6 countries, including Chad, Niger, Sudan, Egypt, Algeria, and Tunisia. Now, Namibia's founding father, Sam Nujoma, who led his country's fight for independence from South Africa, has died at 95. Now, President Nangolo Mbumba said in a statement that Nujoma had been hospitalized over the past 3 weeks, battling an illness from which he could not recover. Born to poor farmers from Ovambo tribe, Nujoma was the eldest of 10 children. Now, he won the first democratic election in 1990 and over his 3 terms presided over a period of relative economic prosperity and political stability. Now, researchers from the University of California, supported by Microsoft, are developing an AI tool to help communities prepare for and prevent crop failures and malnutrition. The 2023 drought in the Horn of Africa has seriously impacted Kenya, with 4.4 million people facing acute food insecurity and 1.1 million women and children experiencing acute malnutrition, according to the United Nations World Food Programme. The researchers have collected detailed weather patterns, NASA satellite imagery, and clinical health records from the past decades to create computational models that can predict food insecurity. Now, AMREF reports that this AI tool has been trialed in Kenya since February 2022, with results showing its predictions are accurate over 3 to 6 month periods, although specific figures are not yet available. AMREF Samuel Mburu is assisting in the development of this software. Outside Africa now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has endorsed United States President Donald Trump's widely criticized plan to relocate Palestinians from the war-ravaged Gaza Strip, declaring that Israel is willing to do the job. In a Fox News interview aired late on Saturday as Netanyahu concluded a visit to Washington, he defended Trump's proposal, which has sparked concern and condemnation across the Middle East and globally. Israel seized control of Gaza in 1967 and maintained a blockade on the Hamas-ruled territory. And finally, in business news, the federal government has initiated discussions with the International Finance Corporation, a member of the World Bank Group, to explore policy options for utilizing Nigeria's Regulatory Commission (ICRC) and a world that unlocking the capital market to fund public development. And business news wraps it for us on the news brief. I am Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for watching.
I will take you through this amazingness today.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
My name is Oluwafiropu Iwinla. With nostalgia, I recall the good old days. The land of my birth is Ibadan, the city of brown rusted roof. This is where I have known as home for the better part of my sojourn on this planet. I grew up in Eleyele, Yagonku, and Apataganga at various stages of my life. And in fairness to our collective memories, those good old days were not just fun, they were testy times too. But all that was to prepare us for today and the more that is to come tomorrow. I remember the peace and order in the living quarters of men and women of the Nigeria police in Eleyele and the Yagonku. How can I forget those monthly inspections of the living quarters of the barracks, when in preparation, each family not only cleans up their respective personal inner rooms, all join hands to clean the kitchen, the conveniences, and the general arena of the block. That was when the next door neighbor to the right is Igbo, and the one to the left is Igala, and we all lived in blissful tolerance. I remember being called the Kobo boy by certain friends of the family in Iyagonku, simply because they claim that my look suggests that I am not Yoruba, but Igbo. This we all laughed away as a joke, but it bears witness to the spirit of camaraderie that we all enjoyed in living together. I remember the classes we took in Islamic religious studies, side-by-side Christian religious knowledge, right then in ICC, Okebola, in Primary 1. In my first term in school, I, alongside other students in the class, had mastered the art of performing ablution as a prequel to saying the Islamic prayer. I remember how my parents used to invite me to come and recite memorized Islamic prayers learnt in school to visit us in our house. Did I tell you that my father aligns with Christianity, while my mother aligns with Islam? But as a child, even before I could walk, I could not bear to hear singing in a church and not be drawn in. Mother was compelled to start going to church on my account, since she needed to be around to guide me. As a young adolescent, I remember going to live with my maternal grandfather in Akimori. He was a traditionalist, versed in divining with cowries. Henry Nilogun, I became his faithful acolyte, helping him to keep his accounts. Did I tell you that, irrespective of his traditional background, he observes the Ramadan fasting, goes to mosque every Jumat, and never stopped me from going to church or following the masquerade when it is its season? I come from the deep good old days of yore. A past of beautiful people and intentions. A past of peace and tolerance. So where did we get it wrong? The quality of questions we ask today determines the quality of answers we get. Will our children believe us when we say we had so much fun in those days, irrespective of our religious, traditional, and cultural leanings? Our challenge now is to focus on how we can change the narrative. How, instead of talking about the good old days, we're projecting into a future that is greater than our past. Let us make the difference now, for the sake of our children's tomorrow. I, therefore, join Shemori Badejo in this collective drive towards a greater tomorrow.
Fundamentally, hustle culture is about work dominating your time in such an unnatural way that we have no time to live our lives. The demanding nature of our world now, where people have to pay multiple bills, take care of family, has led to the need to make more money to meet those needs. Coupled with the constantly increasing cost of living and inflation, people can't stop working. The weekends are no longer spent relaxing and spending time with family, but catching up on work that couldn't be completed during the week or doing other side hustles that can provide that extra money to cover some bills. Now, people log in long hours and take on side hustles for many reasons. Eloho, a 28-year-old woman, has to take on multiple jobs of being an editor by day, an English language tutor by night, and an invigilator on the weekends.
The cost of living has really increased. Like, the inflation is at an all-time high. And salaries are not increasing that much. Even if they are, a friend of mine calculated it for me and said, even if you're earning like 100% more, now your expenses are not like 100% more. For example, I moved houses twice in the last 3 years, And now the rent I'm paying right now is like 200% of what I started with on this same salary. So I say my salary is for 3 different things. So like the day job is for living expenses. Electricity tariff has increased twice. There's water bill, there's light bill, there's so many things to consider. Then my 9th job is for skincare. Your skin starts caring when you take care of it. So and skincare is now more expensive, just keeps getting more expensive. So like things that make me happy, that's one of my income streams goes to. Another is for rent, specifically dedicated to paying rent. And you know, I'm also a firstborn, first daughter, first granddaughter. So there's black tax too.
Oyidamola Abati is another young person who has found herself juggling many jobs and gigs.
In terms of the juggling, it's not so hard anymore. People do it now, like especially now that the pandemic changed everything really. Before the pandemic, people used to ask me, how do you do it? But now, everybody has to learn how to do it. I have friends that are working 3 jobs, that are working 4 jobs. It's stressful, but you know, we have to survive somehow. So for me, when it comes to passions, things that don't have to do with money, I work maybe, I can say once a week or on weekends. I have my easel here, so I do my paintings. If it has to do with resume writing business, I set up a schedule that enables me to work on that. I have people that work with me. You know, once a client comes in, there's step-by-step process. It's been assigned. You know, we have processes. So this structure helps me, keeps my life in focus. Everything, you know, has a structure.
With the rising cost of living, many people don't have a choice but to work at multiple jobs and also own businesses. The economic realities and the proliferation of entrepreneurship has cropped up in our vocabulary since 2020. By meant
and it's
Tariff review since 1990. High suspend the newly introduced 4% customs processing charge. The LCCI criticized the lack of state